The sheriff's chain rattled through my front door handles while my landlord, Owen Kessler, watched from beneath a black umbrella. "Still pretending you belong here?" he asked. My workshop was dark behind him, every saw and drafting table trapped inside. In my coat pocket, I held bitter paddle 117 and a cashier's check for $80,000. Owen thought I had come to witness my own funeral. Why then was I waiting for the auctioneer to say his building's name? 2 years earlier, I had signed a 10-year lease for 8,000 square feet at 414 Mercer Street, where I built custom furniture with my brother Mateo and 4 employees. I put down 38,500 hunds for the deposit and renovation escrow. Almost everything my mother left me. Owen seemed meticulous, even paternal. He filed every rent receipt using an old brass hole punch that left a tiny crescent-shaped bite. "Paper remembers," he liked to say. I had no idea how right he was, did I? 6 months later, Owen requested my tax returns, driver's license, and bank statements for what he called a municipal energy rebate. The building's electrical system was ancient, and a rebate for new service sounded plausible. Still, I noticed his secretary had disappeared, and Owen now collected rent personally. He also stopped issuing receipts unless I insisted. When I asked about the rebate, he tapped my documents into a perfect stack and said, "Leave the machinery to me." What machinery had I just stepped into? The first call came from Meridian Commercial Bank on a Tuesday morning. A loan officer named Priya Shah asked when I intended to cure a $207,800 delinquency. I laughed because the alternative was dropping the phone. I had never borrowed from Meridian. Priya recited my social security number, business registration, and workshop address, then mentioned equipment listed as collateral, including my $62,000 CNC router. Owen called it a phishing scam and told me to ignore her. So, why did he already know Priya's last name? 3 days later, a process server arrived during payroll and handed me a lawsuit thick enough to bruise someone. Meridian had frozen my operating account and sought immediate possession of every machine in the building. Friday's payroll was $1,940. My checking balance showed $600. Mateo kept asking what we should tell the crew, but my jaw had locked so tightly I could taste blood. Someone had signed a personal guarantee in my name. If the signature looked genuine, how could I prove it wasn't mine? Priya quietly arranged a meeting with Meridian's fraud investigator. The application contained my records, a forged lease amendment, and $247,800 in renovation invoices from Pike Redevelopment Group. Meridian had wired the money to an account opened 11 days earlier. Pike's registered office was a mailbox inside Owen's building. Worse, the loan application listed Owen as my authorized property manager, and every notice had been mailed to his private office. But one detail on those invoices made my fingertips turn cold. What had Owen forgotten? Each Pike invoice had the same crescent-shaped puncture as my rent receipts. Owen's chipped brass punch had bitten through every page before the documents reached Meridian. "Paper remembers." His smug little phrase came back so clearly that I could hear the ice clicking in his whiskey glass. The investigator also traced Pike's account to Owen's adult son, Caleb, who had withdrawn $190,000 through cashier's checks. Owen hadn't merely stolen my identity, he had designed my eviction as the final stage. But why did he need my workshop empty? The county records supplied the answer. Owen had mortgaged Mercer Street 3 times and owed $531,000 in overdue taxes and private loans. My thriving lease made the property valuable. My default let him seize my equipment, resell it, and lease the cleared space to a medical developer offering double the rent. My attorney, Denise Park, wanted an emergency injunction. The investigator wanted Owen talking. I wanted both. So I told Owen an investor might provide $90,000 if he helped clean up the Meridian problem. Would greed make him careless? Owen invited me to his basement office that evening. Following the investigator's instructions, I carried a fabricated commitment letter and wore a recorder sewn behind my briefcase lining. Owen said he could persuade Meridian to withdraw the claim for a $60,000 administrative cure. He printed fresh Pike invoices, punched them with that damaged brass tool, and wrote routing instructions on a yellow legal pad. My pulse thudded against the microphone. Then he demanded I sign another guarantee before midnight. How much would he confess if I refused? I pushed the guarantee back. "You signed my name once already." Owen's face changed, not dramatically, but completely. He locked the door, then leaned across the desk until cigar smoke burned my eyes. He said banks trusted property owners, not desperate little tenants, and warned that Mateo's house could be exposed through the company. My knees trembled beneath the desk, but I placed the crescent-punched invoices beside his brass tool. "You left teeth marks," I whispered. Then someone knocked 3 times. Who was waiting outside? 2 federal investigators entered with Priya and a county detective. Owen lunged for the invoices, knocking his whiskey across the desk. But the detective caught his wrist before he reached them. The controlled $60,000 transfer had already landed in Pike's account, and Owen's instructions connected him directly to it. He kept shouting that I had trapped him. I had. Meridian released my accounts within 48 hours, but Owen's lenders immediately forced Mercer Street into foreclosure. Could I save my business before the auction erased it anyway? That was why I held paddle 1 and 17 beneath the rain. Denise had negotiated a $210,000 fraud settlement from Meridian, then helped me form Mercer Works Cooperative with Mateo, our employees, and Priya's retired father as an investor. When the bidding stalled at $608,000, I raised my paddle once. We won at $612,000. Owen stared as the auctioneer announced our company's name, then looked towards the chain doors he no longer owned. I walked over and asked the sheriff for my building's keys. What would Owen say now? Owen never answered. He was sentenced to 51 months for bank fraud, identity theft, and wire fraud. I framed the first rent receipt above our time clock, its crescent-shaped wound visible beneath the glass. And every morning I unlock 414 Mercer Street with a key-stamped owner. He tried to turn my signature into a weapon, but the only name left on his building was mine.